Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between the Bloody Hands, who are going to be led by Warzog, the Great Green Prophet, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by a Princess, and I can't remember if she's on a dragon. Let's go ahead and take a look. And yes, it is going to be the Mighty Star Dragon. So guys, this is actually not my campaign with Italian Spartacus. I decided to go on to ladder and, actually pick the Bloody Hands and then play with the Bloody Hands, because a lot of people do pick the Bloody Hands just as a bit of a distraction card effects, right? You pick it, they're going to be like, oh, is it going to be Savage Orcs, or are they just going to go with Black Orcs? It's pretty much the same thing as like the Crooked Moon, for example. You can pick Crooked Moon, and a lot of people are going to assume Goblins, and then you can go Black Orcs. But this time we're actually going to be trying Mass Savage Orcs, so everything in the army, including my leadership, which is of course Warzog on his glorious pig, are going to be going to town on the High Elves, hopefully. So it could be a disaster. Savage Orcs, of course, only have 0. I was about to say they only have like 10 armor, but they only have 0 armor. So Savage Orcs have 0 armor across the entire front line here. There's not going to be any variance in that, of course. And pretty good combat stats offensively. 36. They also have 38 weapon strength, a really good charge bonus of 28, which is pretty exceptional as far as infantry go. They do have a physical resist of 25%, so things that do magic really just put these guys in a hardcore trash can. But nonetheless, very vulnerable against like high elf missiles and cav charges and things like that. In the secondary line, we have a couple Savage Orc Biggins, so these guys are going to be the heavy hitters in our army. If the enemy does have like cav or things like that, the Savage Orc Biggins are going to have to go fisticuffs and just take it like men. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes for these guys. They can actually chew up infantry very well. Like I've done a couple tests with Savage Orc Biggins, like how they do versus armored infantry. And if they're buffed by some magic, they can chop through pretty much anything. These guys are definitely very beastly. On the charge, especially, because they do have a charge bonus of 37, which is basically like a low-end cav unit. In the back here, we do have a couple of Savage Orc Air Boys, 3 in total. We're not going to get the Rusty Airs, which would have been very nice here, but we're just going full-on Savage Orc, including our cav. We have a couple groups of the Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins. Pretty mean combat stats in terms of their offense. 36, 37, really good armor-piercing values, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 24, I guess, isn't bad. Charge bonus to 65, and they ride some badass pigs, for sure, with some blue war paint. Pretty neat-looking stuff. And we got Warzog back here. We got Foot of Gork. There we go. Fist of Gork, just all the staff, standard stuff, pretty much. And that's it for my 4. So for my opponent, he does have a front line of Spearmen, which Spearmen will get crumped on so bad by Savage Orcs, like just absolutely annihilated. But what the problem is going to be the Swordmasters, the White Lions. He does also have the Fireborn, which could pretty much eradicate my cav single-handedly and then run amok amongst my Savage Orcs. These guys are going to be really tough to take down, potentially. He's got archers in the back, so the archers definitely can tear up Savage Orcs. He's got a dragon. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the glorious Walmart dragon, but it is going to be a princess on a star dragon. He's got a caster as well as a phoenix guard. Perhaps he was expecting like an Arachnarok spider or something. So anyways, guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So the Savage Orc hordes are going to be advancing. As you can see, it is a relatively quick battle. Regardless of which direction it goes, you guys will be seeing the another battle after. We're going to be tacking a second one on. Savage Orcs are going to be pushing forward here, getting ready to party with these Spearmen. The archers are going to be opening fire, and you can see the Savage Orcs are not going to enjoy this at all. There's quite a bit of damage on that initial volley, and it wasn't quite a direct hit, so I'll at the very least lose one group of Savage Orcs before the fighting starts. But again, remember, Savage Orcs only cost like 500 gold or something? I think it's like 550 or something, very, very cheap. Anyways, the Fireborn are going to be getting ready to go out on the flank here because, again, I do have my Savage Orcs, so they're basically assuming they're going to have a free kill or at least be able to ride over my Savage Orcs, or my Savage, yeah. Man, it's just like a total brain freeze there talking about so many Savage Orcs. Anyways, he's riding out to meet me, so Warzog is going to be rushing out. Now, the Baconator, this is a great tool, and also one of the lessons, as you can see, the Savage Orcs are leaping in. I saved the WA because I wanted it to hit the Savage Orc Bacons. Granted, that might have been a mistake, but I wanted them to have a longer effect here. Anyways, we get an FG of the Git, so a good old effigy of the Git / Foot of Gork combo, always one of the best things in the game. So the Savage Orcs, I actually pulled them back for a moment because I don't want them to get stomped. And here comes just a massive erect Foot of Gork, overcasted, boom, right into the Fireborn. There's a bit of a delay. When the dust settles, you guys will be able to see the true damage it does, but check it out. So they just got monster mashed by that. They're still pinned by the effigy, which means I'm going to get the full charge with the Savage Orcs. He tries to pull back here at the last second, but the Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins with the wall going down. That timing, the regrowth is on, but man, they've taken so much damage from that Foot of Gork. They only lost like 15 models, which is pretty good. But anyways, his Lord does jump in, which is understandable. He's going to be trying to save the Fireborn, but more importantly, let's go look at the front line. So Savage Orcs absolutely dumpstering those Spearmen. And check it out, the Savage Orc Biggins then jump into the Swordmasters, and that was like an unnatural burst. The amount of damage that those Swordmasters of Hoeth took from the charging Savage Orc Biggins and Savage Orcs. Are they both Savage Orc Biggins? Yeah, just Savage Orc Biggins. They just got absolutely destroyed by those Savage Orcs. I was really impressed by that. And even though I was just bringing this as a bit of a memey build, I was like, damn, maybe they have some utility here, because they just absolutely annihilated those Swordmasters of Hoeth. And I didn't really have too much support on them, just like the Wa for a couple seconds. It was pretty crazy. Anyways, over here, the Princess is going to be pulling out the Savage Orcs, that's what she said. The Savage Orcs and the Savage Orc Forward Biggins are going to be hunting, and I think Warzog is nearby as well, or actually I pulled Warzog back because the dragon was killing it. The Savage Orc Air Boys providing some pretty decent fire here. Of course, they do have really good armor-piercing values compared to Goblins. It's actually 6, and I think Goblins have like less than 3. But anyways, the Princess is being dumpstered by a bunch of angry pigs. And the frontline engagement's going pretty well. The Savage Orc Boar Boys over here have gotten into the cookie jar, so they're just tearing up these archers and definitely having some fun on Christmas Eve here. And the Savage Orcs going in with There We Go. Pretty juicy for sure. We got a full surround on the Mage of Life. The Halberds here, the Phoenix Guard, are going to be pretty resilient because of their physical resist and high melee defense, but I am very impressed about how hard these Savage Orcs hit. Especially with the support of the Wa and the Bonewood Staff. So every time I did cast a spell with the Warzog, it was triggering melee attack for my whole army. But man, they just destroyed those the Swordmasters of Hoeth, which is really one of the main reasons. It wasn't obviously a very back and forth game, but I wanted you guys to see the applications of the Savage Orcs. Like, I think they're still a little bit risky. I mean, in a super competitive game, like getting focused down is like a one-off, but man, they did so much damage. Anyways, the Fireborn over here are hunting down the Pigmaster. I'm just doing some circles around my Savage Orcs. And the Savage Orc Air Boys aren't pushovers in melee. They do have 38 weapon strength. And another FG of the Git going down, so they're being clubbed by these archers, which are pretty much just like regular Savage Orcs in terms of their combat stats. And taking some arrows to the dome. Some of these ramshackle arrows, always a good time. And that's going to be all she wrote for the High Elves. So the good old Foot of Gork, FG of the Git combo, one of my favorite things in the game. It is so gratifying. And I don't think there is a better target in the game than the Fireborn. They're just so good and tasty. They weren't like bunched up super crazy, and even so, it took them down to like 40%. But yeah, the Savage Orc front line really just annihilated the Spearmen. Like, their high melee defense is basically nullified by the charge bonus plus my melee attack and the Wa, Bonewood Staff, all that kind of stuff. And also the Savage Orc Biggins, though, they were really, really impressive. They tore apart these Spearman Company. The Swordmasters were in a 2v1 fight. They were obviously fighting 2 of them, but I was really surprised at how quickly they went down to the Savage Orcs, who, quote unquote, aren't an armor-piercing unit, right? They're more of an anti-large unit, but I mean, they do very well versus infantry still. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this game. It was a relatively quick one. I just wanted to get you guys some hot Foot of Gork action, as well as show you the potential of Savage Orcs. And now we're going to be jumping over to game 2, which was a showdown between the Beastmen and Vampire Counts. See you in a second. All right, guys, so now we're back with game 2, which is going to be a showdown between the Beastmen, who are going to be led by the, what was the name we came up with? I know we were talking about it the other day, but I guess the Chaos Peacock. I mean, because again, his wings aren't really functional, right? It's just like a peacock. They're just there for show. Wouldn't it be cool if Malagor could fly, though? But anyways, it's going to be the Beastmen. We're going to be facing off against the Vampire Counts, who are going to be led by a Vampire Lord, who's especially bald. I think he's like one of the balder ones. He's really got that shiny chrome dome going on. Definitely going to be fun. So for the front line, we're doing like a Beastman Death Star. So it's going to be one of those builds that just goes balls deep. There's not going to be too much skirmishing, although we do have Centaurs with throwing axes and some Hounds. So it's not like all in. If you really wanted to go all in with the Beastman Death Star, you can get like a Giant on top of this. You just cut these, you get a Giant, you have Minotaurs, you have Chaos Spawn applying poison. It can be pretty tough for the Vampire Counts to deal with, especially if they don't bring the Terror Geist. But the front line is going to be Bestigors. Bestigor is definitely one of the better choices against Vamps. I really think you need to go that direction. You can use the Goreherds, the dual-wielding variant. They are okay. They're immune to Psychology while their Frenzy is active, just like these guys are. But Bestigors have just better defensive stats by Beastman standards. They all have pretty terrible defensive stats, but they have high armor, which is what is really important. So we got the Bestigors in the front line. They're going to be doing armor piercing against, the Sternsbane, Graveguard, enemy Cav, things like that. We have 2 groups of Minotaurs. So we got Minotaurs right here with the Grey Opens. We also do have the Butchers of Kalkengard. So basically, it's just a grindy build. You just run in that front line, you get in there, and you potentially give your opponent the business. We have Malagor the Dark Omen. Now, he does have the icon of Vilification, which is going to give 12 leadership to all nearby troops, which is really solid. So suddenly, these Goreherds are like dwarves, right? They have like 82 leadership. These guys have 90. It's pretty solid. So I think he might actually be better than Morker in this build. Even though Morker does give you Chaos Bond, I feel like that leadership plus the AoE buffs and the Devolve against vampires is very, very good. We have the Chaos Spawn here with only, they're going to be our only Chaos Spawn. But the reason why Chaos Beastmen are better is because the Beastmen Chaos Spawn are better is because they do actually do poison attacks. On top of that, we got Korok's Manrippers in the back to deal with Blood Knights and charges. We got Ungor Spears, and some Hounds, and 2 groups of Centaurs with throwing axes to attack Blood Knights as well as Terror Geists, who are going to be flying around and trolling potentially. For my opponent's army, he's got Direwolves. He does also have Blood Knights, which are always pretty good against Beastmen. Front line of Zombies, secondary line of Graveguard and Spearmen, and kind of just chaff units, which is always pretty standard protocol. Vampire Lord up in the air, Raised Dead, Curse of Years. Yeah, so he does have Curse of Years, which can be pretty decent in the skirmish game. Blood Knights, Dire Pact over here. And guys, he is getting extra spooky. Hex rates plus the chillest of the Geists the chill guys that are going to be attacking here. I have some magic damage. I do have Malagor who has devolved, but aside from that, I don't think I have any, like, as I look through the cards here, I don't think I have any, like, true magic damage. So definitely going to be pretty wild, but guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now, the Centaurs are going to pop out. The Blood Knights, of course, have no chance of catching them, really. They do have 70 speed, but I get a nice little throwing axe volley into the Blood Knights here, who do have shields, which I think does help them against the throwing axes. They take some damage. My opponent does use Curse of Years to try and get a pretty lucky catch on me, because again, had I reacted a little bit slower, or skirmish mode had not been on, I don't really use skirmish mode, but the Curse of Years does slow them down. So he decides to not charge there, a little bit of a waste of Winds of Magic, but again, it does keep me from harassing him while the rest of his army is advancing. I do a charge with the Minotaurs as well as the Chaos Spawn, in case he overcommitted and just went in there trying to get my Centaurs. I was hoping that that would be able to do it, but pretty cool stuff here. It does actually add 15 seconds to my cooldown, so Malagor did get hit with that, so I'm pretty sure it added 15 seconds to my my cast there. Very fancy stuff. In the meantime, the Hex Race and other spooky units and the Force are coming out. They're going to be teamed up with the Blood Knight, so there's a ton of cav coming in. His main force is a little bit weak because Hexface aren't a cheap unit, right? He just has the Sternsmen. And the Hounds are going to be doing a flank charge here on the Bestigors. He's trying to open it up a little bit, so I think he's trying to like muck up my troops so he can sneak around with his cav units. The Zombies and other troops in the front line are going to be engaging with the Gore Herds, who do have the Icon leadership, so they're very, very tanky. They're going to be decapitating some of these zombies here, having a jolly old time. The Bestigors on the far side will be engaging as well. So it's basically all chaff here, but it's actually pretty good for my opponent. He does have Spearmen, which are going to be very, very good against Minotaurs and Chaos Spawn. As I say that, you just see them being cleaved, but Chaos Spawn have pretty good splash damage. You see they're pimp slapping some of these skeletons, and the Butchers of Kalkengard making a big effort to make sure they're attacking the Sternsmen, because Sternsmen are so hard to kill. So I really wanted my hard-hitting kind of heavy bull people here to do some work on them. So on the flanks, he does pull back his Hounds, the Blood Knights, as well as the Hexface are coming in. So it looks like he's going to be getting a really good rear charge. So he gets a good rear charge on my Bestigors there. Kind of collapses my formation. The Spears do pile in, and the Minotaurs with Grey Weapons, who I had in reserve, also charge in. And we also get a Devolve. So Devolve does hit, and it was overcasted. And I'm able to hit all of these spooky chill guys. So that actually does a ton of damage. And the Minotaurs with Grey Weapons, despite the fact that they are ethereal, they're taking a lot of damage. So the Blood Knights in the back do try and get around. The Koroks Man-Rippers have to rush to intercept them, so they don't get their charge defense. But it's still a very good situation. The Koroks Man-Rippers are going to be able to chop down a ton of these Blood Knights very, very easily. And the Centaurs with throwing axes are relatively safe up on the high ground. A couple of them do get caught by some loose Blood Knights here, but we should be able to fall back no problem. On the other side of the battlefield, he does have some Blood Knights waiting. So basically what he's trying to do, he's trying to overload this flank to force me to pull my spears over here. And at that point, he rushes in with the Blood Knights. So very good play from my opponent here. But again, I do see it coming. I then reroute my spearmen to intercept those Blood Knights, and I just fall back through this open pocket. Over here, we're going to have a little bit of a doggo battle. You can see the Chaos Warhounds are going to engage with the Direwolves. And the reason I bring the Chaos Warhounds is because they actually do beat Direwolves. Direwolves 26-14. And of course, the poison is going to play a huge factor here. So the Chaos Warhounds are able to win that engagement, which is going to be very nice. Blood Knights, in the meantime, committed pretty long to this far side battle. Did get taken out by the Koroks Man-Rippers, plus some of these throwing axes, which are just so good against heavy cav. And you can see the Blood Knights being dragged down. The Hex Race and the Chill guys really didn't do a whole lot other than bring the Minotaurs down to 6 models, but the Minotaurs put up a great fight. They were able to hold them in place, even though my formation did actually buckle over there. Balance of power is pretty heavily in my favor at this point after we do get the Blood Knights and the spooky guys. And the Vampire Lord is down here summoning zombies, but the Butchers of Kalkengard have been taking quite a bit of damage actually from the Sternsmen. Quite surprising here, but again, they have 60 melee defense. They regenerate. They haven't lost any models. They actually lost 2 models, but again, the Sternsmen are almost dead, which is a really, really nice grab there. Those guys are normally just such a menace to get rid of. Centaurs with throwing axes. Anytime you're expecting heavy cav, these are probably one of the best things on the roster for dealing with heavy cav. If you're playing against Bretonnia, Vampire counts, they also counter big monsters, right? So if you're going to be facing Terrorgeist, you can just sit them on the Terrorgeist. Terrorgeist can't really catch them. And that's also why you want to bring a group of Hounds to protect them just against Direwolves and things like that. So those Blood Knights do get you put down there basically. And the Minotaurs are able to clean up the Sternsmen, and the rest of the Vampire Count's forces are basically just chaff units. So they're going to be crumbling really quickly. The Vampire Lord is also going to be going down. So I think that build's pretty good against vampires. I'd have to play it a little bit more against your typical style of play, because a lot of times you're just going to see like Mortis Engine with like Graveguard and Terrorgeist and things like that. And it's tough to handle, but I feel like it has potential. The Bestigors do very well against Graveguard in the front line. The Minotaurs, the Butchers of Kalkengard are going to give you a lot of stopping power against armored infantry. And then on top of that, you have the Great Weapons, plus the Centaurs, the throwing axes, and Chaos Spawn to stop some of the bigger monsters. And plus you're getting that poison from the Chaos Spawn. It's definitely pretty good. I think that's normally a relatively tough matchup for the Beastmen, but Malagor was also really solid. I had him in the center. He let those like cheap Ungor Spears fight so much longer because of the Icon of Vilification, which gave that 12 leadership. I definitely am starting to think that, he's a little bit, brings more to the table than Morkert. Morkert's pretty good. He's very one-dimensional, but I still think that Malagor with the Devolve and the, Mantle of Gorok in some battles, plus Cygor summoning, The icon isn't bad, but he's just so cheap that he allows you to go so wide. So if I were to play Vampire Counts against the Beastmen, let's actually go ahead and take a look at a build here to wrap up this video. And you saw the Bloody Hands replay there as I just finished casting that as well. So let's go ahead and go over to the Vampire Counts. So Vampire Counts, very, very spooky. You can go with pretty much any of the lords, right? Manfred's always a really good choice because of his Winds of Magic. The Red Duke is especially good. I would probably get him on a Hellsteed against a Beastman. Like, he can swoop in and kill pretty much any of the Beastman lords, even on a Hellsteed, right? So, and on Hellsteed, he has 510 weapon strength. That is really good. Raised Dead, you can get Von Hells too, like for like Blood Knights and things like that. Potion of Strength is pretty good for sniping, and it's dirt cheap. It costs like nothing, right? You get the Stearnsman. You could probably get like a couple Graveguard with the great weapons. I think that's probably the direction to go there. On top of that, you could mix in a couple Skeleton Spears in the front line just to help out against Minotaurs. I think they're actually what did most of the damage there. On top of that, I really think the Mortis Engine is a big essential. It's very good. Raiders can kind of do a little bit of work against it, but the Centaurs and Throwing Axes are the ones who are going to be focusing it. So that then leads us on to the next point. How do you deal with the Centaurs? Felbats. Felbats are so good. They're so annoying against... I mean, Centaurs will have to run and eventually will kill the Felbats, but the Felbats will shut them down and allow your Mortis Engine to potentially win the game very, very quickly. On top of that, you can get like a group of Blood Knights if you want. You could get a Terrorgeist, something like this, like any combination. You could even just go with the double Terrorgeist if you want, but I really do like having some heavy cap to kind of compromise the Beastmen formation. So let's say, for example, we'll go with like a more of a Blood Knight centric build. You get Blood Knights here. You can run them with, the Dire Pack's actually pretty good in this matchup because it does very well against Centaurs and enemy mobile units like that. So you could like run those two together. But honestly, probably the double Terrorgeist is going to be really tough for the Beastmen to handle. Then again, yeah, I don't know. I think the double Terrorgeist is probably I don't know, but this does allow you to go a little bit wider, right? So you could like mix in like a Black Coach if you want, but against Minotaurs and Chaos Spawn, probably not going to be so good. Barrack Reavers are very good for just like cycle charging and pressuring the flanks and things like that. But the Blood Knights are just potentially so powerful. But yeah, I don't know. I really do like the Terrorgeist quite a bit here. So yeah, maybe we can compromise and get something like this. You get the Blood Knights, you're going to be getting some pressure here, and we don't have quite enough, so we could just get more Felbats. Felbats just chase the Throwing Axes. You win the main fight with the Terrorgeist sniping out enemy big targets. The Mortis Engine, Blood Knights are doing their thing. I think a build like this could be very strong. It's probably not super fine-tuned, but it could do the trick. So again, well played to my two opponents there. It was quite a bit of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this 2-for-1, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.